Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge. This is your latest Manchester United news as we talk about the leaks that are being exposed by you good people and also by the dressing room itself. It's all kicking off a bit today as more stories come out to try and undermine Erik Ten Hag, but the dressing room fights back. And also we'll be talking about the leaks and why they need to be called out. They are scum. They are basically anti-Manchester United. That's what they are. So let's get into it. And of course, it's the Friday night show. Give us your questions. You know me on a Friday night. I'm Kate Bush. I'm running up that hill from the pub to be here with you. And I'm in a good mood. And I hope you are as well. Massive game for Manchester United tomorrow night, of course. And we are here for it. So look, it's been a weird day. We caught the end of it on the morning show this morning, funnily enough, about how basically... I forget the exact... Well, it was Samuel Luckhurst, wasn't it? Saying that there was according to his sources, there was dressing room unrest. Well, this is what TalkSport have said. A group of Man United first team players disagree with Erik Ten Hag's decision to banish Jadon Sancho from the squad. My stance on this is, whoever the leaks are, why are they being protected? And whoever the journalist is, why are you so naive? Why do you print stories to try and bring this manager down because some bitter source is giving you information purposely to try and bring this manager down? I mean, why do you write about Manchester United and not figure out that you're trying to, bring this football club down? There is a time to say Ollie out. There is a time to say Jose out. There is a time to say Van Gaal out. But there is not a time right now to be writing stories from dressing room sources trying to bring this manager down. That's not journalism. That's not a scoop. That's bitter. And I'm glad that people have called it out today. I've even seen in relation to Samuel Luckhurst that a former employee, and I don't know whether this is true, has sent some message saying his sources aren't that good and that's why I left. I mean, look, that could be a bitter ex-employee. I don't know whether there's any truth to that. But what I would say to TalkSport, I mean, I do a show on TalkSport. What I would say about that TalkSport story about players in the dressing room not being happy about the Jadon Sancho situation, guess what? Guess what I think about that? I don't give a shit. I absolutely do not give a shit. I've been in positions as a manager before, not a football manager, in a job where I've done something that wasn't unpopular. And I don't mean I've not done anything lewd. But what I mean is I've disciplined somebody for doing something wrong and they were popular and people were like, oh, I think you've gone too far. And I'm like, do you want some discipline as well? I'm handy. No, you can't do that anymore. But look, what has it got to do with the Manchester United players, how Erik Ten Hag has treated Jadon Sancho? And to be honest with you, I call bollocks. And you know why I call you bollocks? Manchester Evening News can have their sources from the dressing room. TalkSport can have their sources from the dressing room. Guess what? We've got sources from the dressing room as well. We've got sources in the club as well. So have other people. And I can tell you, Simon, that the vast majority of that dressing room are behind Erik Ten Hag. And if you start believing it's not, you're falling into the trap, which is basically the media trap, to try and get Erik Ten Hag out of a job. And that's all this is all about. I'll come on to that in a moment, though. But if anybody out there is thinking that Jadon Sancho has been treated badly, let me paint a story for you. Imagine this scenario. All that's happened, players can disagree with the manager, so what, says Diablo. Well, I don't think they can disagree with the manager. The manager is the boss. Like it or lump it. It's as simple as that. But what I would say about the Jadon Sancho situation is, he's been a naughty boy. He's been a naughty boy. And you might have been a naughty boy or a naughty girl in the past. If you get sent to your bedroom because you've been naughty, and your other siblings say, I think you've gone too far, I'm the parent, shut up, or you'll be going to your room as well. If he comes down and apologises for being naughty, he can sit back and watch this film with us and I'll give him some Pringles. Otherwise, he can go to his bedroom and think about what he's done. I don't want to listen to your moaning. You're not in control. I'm in control. He's been naughty. He's in his room. If he comes down and apologises, he can join us back watching Home Alone. Otherwise, he can sit in his room and moan. And if you feel sorry for him, you can go and sit in the bloody room as well, but not his room because you'll just be talking and you'll like that. And I think that's the amazing thing I find here. Everybody you speak to about the Sancho situation, whether it's Manchester United, journalists, people around the club, they will say if Sancho profusely apologises to Ten Hag, there's a way back. But if he doesn't, then there won't be. So anybody in the dressing room that thinks that Erik Ten Hag has treated Sancho badly needs to piss off out of this football club. You overprivileged twats. There needs to be discipline in that dressing room. We haven't had discipline in that dressing room for a decade. If we've got players going, I don't agree with Sancho being treated like that, piss off and do one. I'll even pay the Uber fare. Get out of this football club and go. Go and try and find another football club. Luckhurst out, says Abhishek. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. But it's so true. It's so true. Because nobody in that dressing room can have sympathy for Jadon Sancho. They can't. He might be a nice guy. They might feel sorry for him in the sense that he's a nice guy and, you know, he's in a bad situation. But he put a tweet out about our manager and he left it up for a week and he must be disciplined. And the story is he won't apologise. So, you know what? If I was in the dressing room of Man United, I'd say we're in a bad situation. We've lost 3 from the first 5, got a massive game tomorrow, and he won't apologise to the manager and help us out. I think, you know, I know whose side I would be on, and it would be the manager and my side. I wouldn't be on the side of a player who won't apologise and shouldn't have put a tweet out in the first place. But this is what I mean. It's just this nonsense about trying to derail the football club. And moving on to the leaks this morning about people in the dressing room from Manchester Evening News are telling Samuel Luckhurst stuff. Well, who are your sources, mate? Who are your sources? And don't talk about journalism and integrity, because every one of your sources seems to shit on the club. Every one of your sources seems to try and disrupt the club. So you're a disruptor by association. What is the point of putting out a story about players not being happy with Erik Ten Hag? What is the purpose of that? Because it just comes across, and I think it comes across from that outlet, that they don't like Ten Hag. I'm not, you know, it's all about opinion. I'm sure they can't stand the United stand. I'm fine with that. Other people don't like the United stand. That's fine. I think the Manchester Evening News is anti-Ten Hag. And yet they're in a privileged position where they get access to Ten Hag because of the relationship the Manchester Evening News has had with Manchester United for decades. But I think they're anti-Ten Hag. And I think that stories that come out saying the dressing room is starting, isn't happy with Ten Hag, I'd expect that from the Liverpool Echo. I'd expect that from a rival. I don't expect that from an outlet that has a relationship with the club and should be supporting a manager that needs supporting. I think it's disgusting. And I think in these situations, it doesn't wash anymore to have dressing room sources, because the dressing room source could be Harry Maguire, who's not getting picked, Scott McTominay, who's not getting picked, Jadon Sancho, who's been suspended. There's a very big difference between the dressing room source being one of those players, or Donny van der Beek, and the dressing room source being Casemiro, Højlund, or somebody who's starting for the team. And I think we all know who the dressing room sources are. It ain't the players that are being picked. So I'm tired of dressing room sources, and the danger with dressing room sources is, unfortunately, for Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, and Donny van der Beek, and Jadon Sancho, those 4 are prime suspects, because those 4 are the players that are problematic at the moment for Ten Hag. So, dressing room sources, it doesn't make any sense. I find it funny how it's always when a British player is treated badly that the leaks come out, says Orange Potato. Well, also as well, as I said this morning, I've been doing this for many years. You speak to lots and lots of people, and, people in the know always say dressing room sources are British for a start. Massive proportion of players that are leaking to the British press are British players. And this is why in the summer, the British press didn't know their arse from their elbow about our transfer business, because it was all happening in Italy, Amrabat, Italy, Onana, Italy, Højlund. The British press was slower than most, the British press was slower than aggregators on Twitter, because the Italian press had it on lockdown. And this is the thing, the English press are very good when it's English players, but they're not very good when it's foreign players, because they don't have those relationships. Because a lot of foreign players, quite rightly, don't trust the British press, because they get bad press from the British press. So you always know when it's a source from the dressing room with an English paper that there's a very high percentage that it will be a British player. Mark, if Sancho wasn't English, the media would be slating him. Typical English press. As soon as Gareth comes out, Maguire, they endorse it, says Alan O'Brien. Well, the interesting thing is, and I can give you this as breaking news or slow sports news or whatever bloody news you want. The fact is, and it's not just coming from me, because you know I speak to people, some of them come on this show. I've spoken to a few people this evening, and obviously they are very good sources, and everybody I've spoken to has been, do you know who this source is from the dressing room? And have you heard anything about bad stuff coming out of the dressing room? Now, some of these people are extremely respected in the industry, and some of them are within Manchester United. And nobody has said to me, or anybody that we've put that source out to, that information out to, that dressing room is even close to being split. In fact, the vast majority have come out and said, I'd say the fan base is a reflection of the players. In that it's well over 90% of the players are firmly behind the manager. Mark, these types of dressing room stories are exactly why prospective players don't take us seriously, says Mo. Ten Hag should be careful the players hold the power. Scott McTominay, lack of effort says a lot. It takes a couple of bad results for him to lose his job. HKN, I want to talk about that. It's so important. And the only chance we have is to back Eric Ten Hag. Keep calling it out, Mark. Forget our league position. This year is now crucial for getting our culture right, says Kieran. We're in a position now as a football club where we're waiting for the Glazers to go. And that should be our focus. And I call out these dressing room sources that are trying to derail this football club, that I want your names. We all want your names. We want to know who you are. And it's fine for journalists to say they've got dressing room sources, but it puts a target on them now because they know who they are. And we don't trust those people. You are trying to derail this football club, and you are taking stories from players or dressing room people who are trying to derail this club. And it might seem like a good idea to write that story, but you've just put a really big focus on you because everybody knows that you've took information from that club and you know who the traitors are. And we don't want those people in the club. We don't want those people in the dressing room. We know what this situation is and we know who's responsible for it. And that's the Glazers. And that's the change that we want. That's why people have sat in the ground. That's why people have protested. That is what Manchester United fans want. We do not want to be distracted with sacking another manager. And we do not want to be distracted by another leaky dressing room. We want to focus on real change because we've sacked enough managers. We've had enough dressing room revolts, and it is revolting. We want the Glazers out. That's the only thing that's going to change this football club. We don't want stories from the dressing room, from bitter bastards who aren't getting game time, who just want to protect their own brand because they have got their heads so far up their arse they can't see the wood from the trees. We want real change. We don't want a manager change. And to be honest with you, that is the big thing. And we've got to be very, very careful here because we've seen what can happen when infection, works its way around that dressing room. They will down tools. They'll get battered by Watford. They'll get battered by Leicester. They will down tools. Tomorrow night's a prime example of where we could lose and Ten Hag's in trouble. I do not want that. I do not want to be watching Man United lose to Burnley tomorrow night. And I will be angry if we lose, but I'll be furious if we lose because I'll be going, they've done it again. They've fucking done it again. They've downed tools for another manager at the expense of us, the fans, who've been through this time and time again. So if they want a call to action, fans need to call to action. We need to call out these bloody journalists who are trying to derail Ten Hag. We need to call out the mainstream who are trying to derail Ten Hag. And we need to call out these players who are trying to turn that dressing room against Ten Hag. It cannot happen. And if there's players or coaches or anything at Man United out there, you need to do your job. You need to do your job as well because this cannot be allowed to happen again. It is not the right time. It is not the right. It's not the right reason. If there is dissent in the dressing room, it's because we've got toxicity in that dressing room that he tried to remove in the summer, and he was right to remove it in the summer, and it's wrong. Majority of the fans seeing through every facade this season. I hope more leaks come out soon so it's easier to expose and get those players out, says Dawell. Paul Woolley, welcome to the Members Club. This is the same manager that has enough pull to convince players to want to join United to play for him. Sod off sources, says the Inquisition. Exactly. I sound like a Scouser. Exactly. This is how the media can manipulate us. This is how toxic elements in that dressing room can manipulate us. Only a few short weeks ago, we were talking about how bad Murta is at his job, how bad Arnold is at his job. And we were saying the only reason we got Højlund and he didn't go to Chelsea or Bayern was Ten Hag. The only reason we got Onana and he didn't go to Chelsea was Ten Hag. The only reason we got Mount and he didn't go to Liverpool or Arsenal was Ten Hag. So we've got this manager who's got this pull. But then we've got these players that he's told to go who are trying to turn that dressing. I think it's, you know what I think it is? I think it's bloody disgusting. I think it's disgusting that he is trying to build something in a really, really difficult situation. You know, we've had the Greenwood, the Anthony, the Glazers, the shitty transfer window. He had a miraculous first season where he took us from nothing to third and won us a trophy. And 5 games in, they're trying to drag him down. They're trying to pull him down. The same people again. And the people who are trying to pull him down are the people that never wanted him in the first place and the players that realise they're not good enough and they've got such a big ego that they're trying to take somebody down with them. I feel like the issue is some players are getting dropped, not getting picked, and you've got all players like Rashford who's just been given a massive contract and he's walking around. Well, look, the Rashford thing's interesting. Some people even think Rashford might be the leaker. I mean, how does that make sense? How does it make sense that Marcus Rashford... I mean, look, Marcus Rashford's got a brand around him. He's got people around him who will protect him in the media. But why would Marcus Rashford be leaking against Ten Hag? And if he was, how powerful is he at the football club? Because he's already playing every bloody minute. He's already on 350 grand a week. Why would Rashford be leaking against Ten Hag? That would be devastating if it was true. And I can't see it is true. I think it's very obvious who's leaking against Ten Hag. Charlie Max says, look, there's a snake that's taking payoffs from the bench. And Mark, I think it's not just the players who keep holding us back, but the media who are the mastermind. Oh, Soham, 100%. This, you know what? This goes back to the March before Ten Hag even got his job. You know what was happening on this channel. And I think this channel was probably the biggest champion for Erik Ten Hag. Because, you know, we have green grass across the street, says Bry. The funny thing is that we remember that March and April before we got Ten Hag. And everywhere you looked, no ex-player said Ten Hag. I mean, Roy Keane wanted Simeone. Everyone else wanted Poch. The media wanted Poch. And I remember saying this. At some point, they'll come for him. Because they never wanted him. They never wanted Ten Hag because they're not educated enough to know what Ten Hag is. They wanted Poch because he managed Spurs and he did some interviews on the telly on Match of the Day. We like Poch. We know what Poch is all about. We like Poch. We know they didn't know what Ten Hag was, so they wanted Poch. And the fans won. We were called hysterical. We were called E-fans. We were called you can't listen to the fans. And Ten Hag got the job. And he was the fans' choice and he got the job. And, you know, fair play, the club, for whatever reason, hopefully they listened to the fans, but they gave the right person the job. But I always knew that the media didn't want Ten Hag. And I always knew, because I know how this media works, that they'll go for him. And they're going for him. That's what they're doing. You know, he had an amazingly good season last year. He's had a bad start this year. But it's 5 or 6 games. And they're on him. 5 or 6 games and they are on him. And that, you are right. The media are very, very powerful. And but so are we. And I mean we, the fans. So is social media. And, you know, what I do see is that the vast majority of fans are behind this manager. And the vast majority of Man United fans are tired of the same shit. And the vast majority of Man United fans will call out leaks as we don't want to hear it. Because we know where it's coming from. Bitter, bitter players. We don't want to hear that. You know, we've been through this so many times. We're not interested. It's not a scoop. And if you've got an inside dressing room story, tell us who fucking said it. Because I'll tell you who it's not. It ain't Onana. It ain't Dalot. It ain't Wan-Bissaka. It ain't Varane. It ain't Lindelof. It ain't Martinez. It ain't Reguilon. It ain't Casemiro. It ain't Amrabat. It ain't Ericsson. It ain't Bruno. It ain't Højlund. I don't think it's Rashford. I really don't think it's Rashford. It ain't Garnacho. You know, it ain't Pellistri. So, you know, there's a lot of players that it isn't, basically. So the dressing room is split. The dressing room is turning against the manager. How does that even work? The same journo said club sources turned their nose up at the Amrabat stories and that there was little to no chance he'd join. Oh, absolutely spot on. You know, there was a story going around today that this journalist who's got these sources doesn't actually have any sources. So, maybe it's bullshit. You called it, Mark, last season, and you were spot on. As soon as we go through a rough patch, the media witch hunt begins, says A. McGuinness. Rashford is in bed with Ten Hag. I don't think he's the leak, says Samir. And Mark, this might be history repeating itself. Remember, they wanted Ferguson out. Yeah, Paul, they do. But the great thing is that in recent times, there has been, the fans make their mind up. Welcome to the Members Club, Austin. The fans make their mind up. It's enough of Jose. It's enough of Ollie. It's enough of Van Gaal. It's enough of Moyes. But it's not like that. And the most important people in any football club is the fans. If Liverpool decide they've had enough of Klopp, then they've had enough of Klopp. Same with Pep at City. Same with Arteta at Arsenal. The fans drive this. The media can only try to manipulate you. And that's something you need to understand in life. It's the same with politics. It's the same with anything. It's the same with film reviews. They try to manipulate you. Oh, this film's brilliant, even though it's shit. This branded bread is the best bread you can buy. It's the same as Tesco's own brand. It's manipulation, and we've got to be awake to it. And I think we are awake to it. And I think while we're awake to it, there's a problem. It's the same reason they would criticise Ollie. The ex-players had great access. None of the pundits have any access with Ten Hag, says Rory. You're damn right, Mark. We need to stick up for a manager. We need to get rid of some of these no-good players, says Calvin. The club should take a stand and suspend Manchester Evening News from press briefing and press conferences. They clearly do not care about the club, says Milverton. Well, I don't think that will happen, and I disagree with that happening. The relationship, it goes back many, many years with the Manchester Evening News. It's a very old and respectable outlet, but they should be supporting the manager. And what I'm detecting, and I think Man United needs a reset here, you're right, they should be having a chat with these outlets and say, hold on a minute, this manager's only just come in. The first year he takes us to third and wins a trophy. And after 5 games, it feels very much like, to us, like you're trying to brief against this manager. They'll shit themselves and go, no, we're not. And then I'd go, well, let's see some positivity around this manager then. Media and opposition fans say Glazers have spent X, but don't see all this drama as an exact prerequisite to why the Glazers ownership is leeches, says it's just Danny. Manipulate or manipulated, says Nick. And welcome to Members Club, Eric. It's Maguire, of course. He's hoping Eric Ten Hag will get the sack so he can have another chance, live his dream of life of being a captain. No, Zen, I don't know whether it's Harry Maguire. I don't know whether it's Harry Maguire. And I'm not, one thing I would say is that, and I would agree with this, is that you can't start saying it's Harry Maguire because that would be abuse, that would be bullying, and we don't have the evidence. What I would say is that I'd take a very firm guess that it's a player that's not in the team, and I'd take a very firm guess that they're British. So it could be 3 or 4 players in my mind. I don't know who it is. But that's the danger when it's dressing room sources. Ultimately, at least Jadon Sancho had the balls to put the tweet out. He was completely stupid, but at least it was Jadon Sancho on his Twitter having a pop at the manager. And he shouldn't have done it, but what I will respect Sancho for is he did it, and we all know he did it. He wasn't a coward. He was completely wrong, and he never should have done it, and he should have kept his gob shut, but he could have leaked it to the press. He could have been a dressing room source. He still could be, but I don't, there are people who will never do that because they're cowards. Mark, rival fans really trying to educate us about the Glazers saying they are not that bad. Ignore them, Tony. Mark, go up to the players who are leaking and say, get your stuff and go. Don't care how much you cost, says Andy. And right now we should be focusing on changing the player mentality, says Blue Sabre. Well, it pisses me off. It pisses me off because, we've got a massive game tomorrow and we're talking about this. And one thing it will do is if you're Bruno Fernandes at home, or you're Rasmus Højlund, or you're Marcus Rashford, or you're Lisandro Martinez, you'll be aware of this noise ahead of a big game. It's destabilising, and that's the point. How do you solve it? Drezzy, welcome to thank you very much for your super chat. How do you solve it? I would love to know the name of the players, and I would get in contact with Man United and I'd say it's definitely him and him, 100%. Now, do you want to do something about it, or do you want us to do something about it? And they'd go, please don't do anything about it because I know what you do. We put the names out there. I'd say, well, all right, we won't put the names out there, but you need to do something that we visibly, publicly see. And what I would hope it would be is they're disciplined or they're booted to the reserves. That's what needs to happen. I don't care who they are. I really don't care. I could be shocked by who it is, but I would like the club to find out who it is and, do what they've done with Sancho. out the team, discipline. You know, I really don't care anymore. Look, you think about how this fan base has had to go through things recently, right? Mason Greenwood, where a lot of people wanted him to play, he's now playing in Getafe. A lot of people agreed with that, myself included, but some people didn't agree with it. Jadon Sancho, I agreed with how he's been treated. Some people don't agree with it, but we get on with it. We support the manager, we support the team, and you know, nothing will shock me about this club is what I'm trying to say. So if we find out who this leaker is and the club say he's suspended for 2 weeks, good. I'm not saying there's not a way back, but how good would it be if United found out who it was and suspended them for 2 weeks? I'll bloody love it. I'll bloody love it if that happened. And that's what needs to happen, because we are broken. We are a broken football club, and we're never going to get fixed if every time there's some bad results, we've got a dressing room source leaking it out. It won't. Ten Hag is the boss. If the players do not meet his standards or the clubs, they shouldn't play, says Requiem. Players need to realise that they won't get away with ill discipline. Exactly, Requiem. Evening, Mark. Ten Hag needs to get a grip on this and close it down. Fergie didn't stand for it and he closed it down. I think you're absolutely right. I don't think you could ignore it, Slow Sports News. I think you've got to get hold of it. If I was in charge, I'd be like, I want to know. I'd be like this. I want to know who it is, and if the club said, "Well, we don't know," I'd say, "Well, right, okay." If I was Ten Hag, I'd say this is a piece of piss. This is so easy to resolve, right? And this is what I mean about putting a target on yourself. Samuel Luckhurst has put that article out in the Manchester Evening News saying dressing room sources, right? He is not asking me a question in the press conference until he tells us who it is. Well, we can't do that, Eric. Well, we fucking can. Sir Alex Ferguson refused to speak to the BBC on Match of the Day, even though Man United were contractually obliged to do it, and he didn't do it for years. I am not answering a question from him until he tells us who's leaked the information. And when he told us who's leaked the information, he can ask any bloody question he likes again, and we will deal with the player that did it. United need to grow a pair. This is what I mean. It's not some subliminal dressing room source. It's written by a journalist in a paper about dressing room sources. You go and fucking find out. They spent 4 months investigating the Mason Greenwood situation. It's a football club investigating a bloody criminal or potentially criminal offence. I think they can figure out who is leaking information to a journalist whose whole occupation is based on Man United. Who's got the power in that situation? Man United or the Manchester Evening News? You can find that information out and then you discipline it. You deal with it. The stories going back to Mourinho are also similar and follow a similar pattern, that I think this leak is the same person doing it for years, is Emily. Need Paul Mitchell in to grab hold of this club. Ten Hag is being pulled from pillar to post and it's not fair, says Charlie. Mark, please make Glazers booted out the club, says Nishank at Soul Studio. Look, my only concern with all of this is its negativity and its noise. And the problem is, if we lose tomorrow, then all this helps the movement. I'm not blind to that. If we lose tomorrow, all this will become more relevant. We lose tomorrow night and people will be going, oh, I actually agree with the leaks. You know, I agree. You know, and this is what it is. Ten Hag is walking on thin ice when he should be working on concrete. Like, he shouldn't have to be thinking, if we lose... Look, the Premier League is very competitive unless you're Man City. Of course we could lose at Burnley. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that we lose. But if we do lose, oh, it's four in a row. He's got to go. The dressing room's getting really, you know, it's unneeded pressure. And what always pisses me off in this situation is the pressure's not coming from Liverpool fans. It's not coming from rival journalists. It's coming from our own dressing room. It's coming from our own journalists. Manchester United correspondents and Manchester United employees are piling the pressure onto the Manchester United manager. That's never, you know, talk about a siege mentality. That's never right. And look, I've said Ollie out. I've said Mourinho out. But I was always late on that. And I never wanted to do it. It's just, it gets to a point where you have to. We're nowhere near that with Ten Hag. How can you have a 60-game season where you finish third and you get to 2 cup finals and you win a trophy and you qualify for the Champions League? How can you have 60 games and then after 6 go, no, that's it, you're gone. You know, I don't care what you did for 60 games. I'm not happy with these 6. I'm not going to give you any time. I know the club's a shit hole, and I know the Glazers are dragging it down, but you've got to go. You have got to go. It's ridiculous, the patience. Mark, could it be could it be that Mark is working for the Glazers? Mark, could it be that Mark is working for the Glazers? I don't work for the Glazers. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I'm passionate about this. I don't forgive it. It needs outing. It's not right. It's noise we don't have to put up with. The Anthony situation, the Sancho situation, the Greenwood situation, the transfer window situation, the Glazer situation, those are things that are not fair, and they are pressure, but he's got to deal with them. He has to deal with those because they are serious issues, all of them. But this shouldn't be happening. This is just added pressure, and it's not right, and it needs calling out. On a positive, though, and please do get your comments in. We've had a few tonight. On a positive, and as I said a few minutes ago, this is categorically true. When you do the maths yourself, you can figure this out. But I know it anyway, because whether people like it or not, as you know, Hotter Than the Sun and other things, we were well ahead of the game on stuff. We had the stuff out about Anthony a couple of weeks ago on our Twitter account. We do get information, and we do get information from people in the club, and we handle it respectfully. We don't and would not start... You know what? If somebody on my team said this morning, we've got somebody who's got in contact with us from the dressing room, and they're really unhappy with Ten Hag, and they want to get their story out, I would say, fuck off. No, not in a million years. All right, we might get a few tweets, a few extra viewers. No way, not doing it. It's inflammatory. It's anti where we need to be as a football club, and there's a story. But there's also, we're meant to support this football club when we can. And there is a time to sack a manager, and there is a time to sell a player. But now is not the time to be putting stuff out like that. And we wouldn't do it. And I don't think a lot of other people would. It's just not the time to be doing it. But what I will say is, sometimes you'll get stuff and you'll put it out as a positive thing. And I think that's what we need at the moment. And I will tell you this for free. Mark, what do you think? Who do you think the leaker is? I'll come back to that, Melps. But I'll tell you this for free. I know for a fact that Rasmus Højlund is 100% behind this manager because he loves Manchester United, and Ten Hag sold him the job, and he will do anything for Ten Hag. Amrabat loves this manager, hasn't even played for him yet, and came to this club because he loves Ten Hag. Anana loves Ten Hag. Martinez loves Ten Hag. Casemiro loves Ten Hag. Bruno loves Ten Hag. Mason Mount better fucking love Ten Hag because he came to this club because of Ten Hag. Marcus Rashford is his star boy. He loves Ten Hag. Wan-Bissaka's career has been revolutionised under Ten Hag. Delot loves Ten Hag. Reguilon has been given a massive opportunity by Ten Hag. Lindelof is now playing games for Manchester United because of Ten Hag, and he's improved him. Varane is a better player under Ten Hag. All the players I actually care about, all the players that are going to get out of this mess, and that's all I care about, they're all behind Ten Hag. The younger players love Ten Hag. So when I'm asked who the leaker is, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out who it is. Because, and this is where they go wrong in the press. Players are starting to turn against Ten Hag because of his treatment of Sancho. Players are starting to turn against Ten Hag because of his favouritism. Hold on a minute. We ain't stupid, and we've been here before. Who are these players? Because I know from that squad of 25, over 85% of it love Ten Hag and are firmly behind him. And I can figure out who the 15% are. So I don't think it's Luke Shaw either. Somebody just said, could it be Luke Shaw? No, I don't think it's Luke Shaw, because Luke Shaw has been revolutionised under Ten Hag. I mean, Luke Shaw a year ago was still a good left back, but a year on, he is one of the top left backs in Europe, and he's also one of the best left-sided centre backs in the league. So Luke Shaw's reputation and pedigree has gone up with Ten Hag. So I don't. The difference is, there will be relationships in the dressing room. One player that's playing for Ten Hag and likes him could still be best mates with a player that is out in the cold. And you've got mixed loyalties. You've got your professional loyalty to Ten Hag, but you've got your friendship loyalty to your mate. But ultimately, I've spoken to plenty of football. I remember Paul Ince saying this to me. I think he said it on the United Stand. You know, I had all these mates at Manchester United, really good mates. And then I'm playing golf with Giggsy in 1995, and I get a phone call from Sir Alex Ferguson, who says, "Where are you?" And I said, I'm playing golf. And he meets me in the car park, and he says, "We've had an offer from Inter Milan, and we're going to accept it." And Paul Ince was like, I was stunned. You know, I wasn't expecting it. I was really happy at Man United. Yeah, we'd had a bad end to the season. We could have won the double and we didn't. But I was absolutely stunned. And he said, you know, at the end of the day, when the manager says they've accepted an offer for you, that's when your pride kicks in. And I was like, fine, I'll go. I mean, we could do with players like that now. We have bids accepted and we tell them to go and they go, they're not going. So Ince goes. But the reality is, he said, the thing is, you go and play for Inter Milan, and all those friendships you've got at United, they disappear because you're at a new club now and you're quickly forgotten. You know, all these friendships in the dressing room, they don't mean shit. They don't mean shit because those players could go next year and have a new dressing room. The loyalty to the manager is what will follow through. And as I say, the vast majority of that dressing room is with Ten Hag. So when you hear dressing room division, dressing rooms turning against Ten Hag, just do the maths in your head and go, well, Onana won't, Dalot won't, Wan-Bissaka won't, Lindelof won't, Varane won't, Martinez won't, Reguilon won't, Casemiro won't, Amrabat won't, Bruno won't, Mount won't, Rashford won't, Højlund won't, Anthony's not there at the moment, so, you know, they won't. Anthony Martial, don't know. I don't know. I think Martial, just keep him out of it. I don't know what Martial's relationship with Ten Hag is. Does Martial want to be at Man United? I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't even include Martial in it, to be honest. And I tell you what, there ain't no way Anthony Martial's leaking to Samuel Luckhurst or the Manchester Evening News, because they've been slagging him off for years. So it won't be Martial. Dres says, do you think Samuel Luckhurst is working for the Glazers? I don't think so, no. This generation of players is different from Ince's generation, though, so it might be different, says Matthew Holman. Yeah, look, Martial won't be leaking to the British press. They've treated him like shit for years. But look, you know, so who do I think it is? Look, I could sit here in front of 18,000 people and give you a name, and I'd expose myself to being sued because I don't know. I don't actually have the evidence of who it is. And if I did, I'd put it out there. So, you know, that's interesting because somebody one day might get the evidence and it'll get put out there. All I would say is, from the conversations I've had this afternoon with numerous people that I trust, some of them very, very good, you know, people that you know, I know who it isn't. I know who it isn't, and I've just listed them off. And most of them are first-team players or bench players that actually play. Therefore, and it's very important to remember, if there is a dressing room source. I think this is really important, if there is a dressing room source. Because, you know, how hard is it to write a story or put a tweet out saying, you know, as TalkSport have tonight, saying people in the dressing room are becoming increasingly fed up of the way Sancho's. Well, who are they? And, you know, I think you have a right in life to say, I don't believe you. Dressing room source. You know, so we say it could be this player, it could be that player. If it is a player, it will be one of four, in my opinion, who aren't anywhere near Ten Hag's plans. If it is a player. If there is a source. Glenny Boy says, don't forget the Manchester Evening News was a little local newspaper before New Tech gave them a worldwide reach, yet their attitude to the fan base is rubbish, says Glenny Boy. Well, there's certain journalists at that outlet who constantly call you e-fans, who constantly think you're different to match-going fans, who constantly take the piss out of you as foreign and online fans, as not being real fans. I've heard it on their podcasts. I've seen it in their articles. So, you know, I will shout that out. But what's that got to do with what we're talking about? I don't really know. But I've heard it and I've seen it. And I've called it out and I'll call it out again. Manchester United is a great, massive, diverse football club with fans all around the world. and most match-going fans are on social media. So who in their right mind, and what is the motivation when you're trying to divide fans and put them into boxes? I don't care if you've been to Man United every single game home and away for 30 years, or you've never been, but you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning watching the match in America. I don't care. It doesn't mean one opinion's better than the other. The way you support the club is different, but it doesn't mean you're more educated. It really, really doesn't. I know people who are season ticket holders who've got no fucking clue. I'm not talking about Ricky. But they've got... Ricky would laugh at that. But, you know, we are a football club of passionate people. And it matters. If you care, if you're watching this video, we've just spent nearly an hour talking about dressing room leaks and not about the game tomorrow. Don't tell me that the person who's listening to this show in Mexico or India or Australia doesn't care about this football club. We all care about it, and we shouldn't be, you know, dismissed as E-fans or whatever like that. It's just, it's arrogant, and we don't need that. Let's have a look to what we say. Humans versus GPT says, the Fridge, McTominay or Sancho? Can we do a poll? We will never succeed. We're not doing a poll on who the leak is. It's completely unfair. And as I said, if there is a leak, what if the story is fabricated? What if there isn't a leak? What if it's just, I don't like Ten Hag, let's talk about a dressing room leak? We will never succeed unless Ten Hag can focus on football and not this stupidity. You know what? It's a great point there. I often do wonder what Ten Hag thinks. I mean, I don't follow Ajax enough to know they are a very passionate fan base, but do they get this shit? Because there's big clubs in this country who don't get this. Liverpool don't get this. Jurgen Klopp doesn't have to put up with this. Liverpool and Man United are massive clubs. It's Manchester United. It's distraction, says Tina. It's a soap opera. And I wonder, I guarantee you can tell Ten Hag. I feel I'm quite good at reading people from the jobs I've done in the past, and, you know, the amount of time I've spent speaking to people and interviewing people, whether it be, you know, when I was in the police or whether it was when I was in banking and interviewing people and, you know, for jobs and stuff. And you get to know people who are comfortable in social environments and some people who really would rather not do it. And I think it's very obvious with Erik Ten Hag when he first came into the club. You think back to his first few press conferences, he was really bad at it. He was really bad at it. And I think Erik Ten Hag is more obsessed about football than probably all of us. And I'm obsessed. And he's more eager to learn about football than probably all of us. He loves football and he loves managing, and that's what he loves to do. And, you know, in some ways very similar to people like Klopp and Pep. He's at a football club where all his energy is probably thinking on how he gets this football club to play and become a big football team. And all he ever fucking deals with is incompetence around transfers, around ownership, you know, the Mason Greenwood, the Anthony, the Sancho, you know, the Ronaldo, you know, it's just in not even 18 months, he's probably dealt with as many big incidents as the Prime Minister of the UK. It's ridiculous. And I'm over exaggerating there. But this guy just wants to manage a football club. And he's constantly being dragged into this. You know, we have an international break. We've lost to Arsenal. He's had the Jadon Sancho thing, and then he turns up to the press conferences. He's being asked about Harry Maguire being booed for England against Scotland. He's his fifth choice centre-back. What are you fucking talking to me about? You know, one day, I'd just love Ten Hag to go, what the fuck are you talking about? Why are you asking me about my fifth choice centre-back being booed for fucking England? What's that got to do with me? Fuck off. You know, but he's become like the president. We've turned Ten Hag into a fucking PR merchant. You know, he's forever deflecting questions about stuff he shouldn't be talking about. Let the guy fucking manage. It was Sancho's mum, trust me, says Matteo. That was a joke, by the way. Erik Ten Hag is the most important person at this club. He's the best thing to happen to United since Sir Alex Ferguson. Look, I just hope we can win tomorrow. I hope we win tomorrow and ram it right up all these people that are trying to derail him. And they'll be hoping for the other way. they'll be hoping that we lose, because then they can keep pushing it. And it's not just what we've been talking about today. It's the mainstream. They'll love it, you know. They'll be loving it. They'll be waiting for it. You know what? I'd like to get into a position where we're not on the front pages anymore, where we haven't got, you know, I just want to get into a position where, you know, we win 4 or 5 games in a row and people stop talking about us and we can just focus on the positives. Renate has just gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much to Renate there. I've exhausted myself today, you know. Friday night, let me have a little sip. Can I just say as well, my day today, morning show, straight in the car, down to Solihull Moors, shooting some football stuff, hip out of joint. We'll get you content of that soon. And then straight back onto EAFC Man United career mode. Fucking loved that, by the way. We had like 15,000 people watching it. 15,000 people, not on this channel, on my Mark Goldbridge channel, watching the career mode. It's back up and running. If you're a part of that, fantastic. It's a Man United career mode anyway. And I'll tell you what, there's some fucking... I'll tell you what, if Amrabat scores a goal tomorrow, like he did on my FIFA career mode, unbelievable. If you want to check that out, by the way, I know it's the weekend, you might want to check it out. Links in the live chat, and you can just type in Mark Goldbridge, EAFC Man United career mode anyway. Really loved that. And then down the pub for a couple, and then straight back up here to have this chat with you people. I'm tired, but I tell you what... my back's up, and I think a lot of the fan base's back is up. And this is where I get really proud of our fan base, because we're not having it anymore, are we? You know, there's some great stuff going on with the Glazers, and we're not going to drop it, but we're not having this. You know, you talk about... It is a little thing for you. Just over a week ago, we are being called bullies. We are being called abusers. For what? Because Harry Maguire's not good enough to play for Man United? What has him being booed for England got to do with us? No one was talking about Maguire before the international break. No one's talking about him now. But it's our fault. Oh, bullies and abusers for saying a player's not good enough to play for the club. Out uproar. Brendan Rodgers, a Celtic manager, being asked about it. Ryan Fraser, don't even know who he plays for, interviewed about it. Everybody. My cat being asked about it. Everybody being asked about an irrelevant story, really, in relation to Man United. But that's bullying and that's abusing. What's this against Ten Hag? Oh, he's got a Dutch passport. Don't matter. What is this against Ten Hag? Leaks. Constant negativity. Oh, it's all right. It's all right. That's not bullying. That's not abuse. He's a Man United manager. He's got to put up with it. You know, it's par for the course. It's part of the job. It's not part of the job. He's being victimised. He's being targeted. He's being bullied. It's not on. But the fan base is backing him, and that's the main thing. I was working at Land Rover while you was putting your hip out, says Kelvin Stewart. You might be... I'll tell you what, if you were working at Land Rover next to Solihull Moors, there's a football, it's got a date on it, a Nike football that Ben Foster gave me. It actually was used in a Premier League game, and I lost it. I booted it and I lost it, and we couldn't find it, and I'm gutted. 150 quid that ball. But yeah, look, I've said my piece tonight. I think everybody is aware of it. I just think we need to be open to it, and I just bloody hope we win tomorrow night. You know, I know it's Burnley, but you know what? Probably going to celebrate those goals more than I did the Carabao Cup final. I'm up for this game tomorrow. I want us to win. Hi, which Premier League manager would you beat in a fight, says Remy. The fact that I was even going to think about that, I'm not a violent person. About half, really, if I'm being fair. You can't be arrogant. But you know what? I hope that Rasmus and Marcus and Bruno and Raphael and all those players tonight are as angry as we are and as focused as we are, because tomorrow night we need to go and put a show on, don't we? We need to go and put a show on for this manager and this fan base, and I can't wait for it. How did your cat answer on that Maguire question, says Soul Studio? And Gareth Southgate, welcome to the Members Club. Imagine if it was the real one. Right, everybody, it's been a cracking show. I really enjoyed it, and make sure you take care. Don't forget, Chris, talking about echoes, don't forget to check out the FIFA career mode. It's a good watch. It'll be better than most things that are on a Friday night. Anyway, and yeah, you'll really enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to watch it back myself later. There was some That Anana goal. Anyway, I'm giving away. Thanks everyone for watching. It's in the live chat if you want to go and check it out. I'm going to look for it now, says Kelvin. Take care, everyone. You're all legends. Don't forget, tomorrow it's an 8 o'clock kickoff, but we will have a morning show for you. I'll be on the morning show at 10. Speak to you all in a bit. Take care.